And from the storms to war, we go now to Senator John McCAIN. He is in San Francisco this morning, but he is just back from a secret trip to Syria. I understand, Senator, even your daughter didn't know you were there until she read about it. So you went, you met with some of the rebel forces there. I guess the first thing to ask you is, what did you find out?
Well, I found out that these individuals are very tough. They're battle-hardened. They're very dedicated. They are not Al-Qaeda. They're not extremists. I met with some 19 battalion commanders, both in Turkey and in Syria, but they're badly outgunned now. And there's a lot of really serious stuff going on that just breaks your heart. Qusayr is surrounded by Bashar Assad's forces. They're pounding them from the air and with artillery. There's some 400 or more people are wounded that they can't get out, and that's a key battle because strategically it's vital to success or failure of Bashar Assad. So I met them. General Idris, who is the commander of the military inside Syria, escorted me in and out. He's a fine leader. And so all I can tell you is that, yes, al-Nusra is there. More and more extremists are pouring in. Every day it gets worse. But we have some very strong and good people who are fighting for freedom and are being massacred as we speak. And by the way, remember all this talk we've heard for the last year or two, it's inevitable that Bashar Assad will fall. Well, I think we can't make that statement today. The Iranians, Hezbollah is now invaded, the Iranians are there, Russia is pouring weapons in, and anybody that believes that Bashar Assad is going to go to a conference in Geneva when he is prevailing on the battlefield, it's just ludicrous to assume that. So
you think he is now has the upper hand?
I think that every assessment that you get from any intelligence agency is that thanks to increased weapons, thanks to Hezbollah fighters, thanks to extremist Shia coming in from Iraq, the Russian pouring weapons in, Iranians, Revolutionary Guard, that we are seeing, unfortunately, a battlefield situation where Bashar Assad now has the upper hand, and it's tragic, while we sit by and watch.
Have you talked to anybody at the White House about this or given any kind of report to the administration?
I haven't given a report yet. I did talk to John Kerry earlier before I went in, but I've been over here at my son's wedding in San Francisco, but I'm sure I will, hopefully we will go to the floor, but I will, but the administration knows this. They have the same information I have. It's a slaughter, and the refugee camps are full. The Jordanians cannot last under the present situation. Lebanon is more and more tilting into chaos. The Israelis are threatened. This is now has every likelihood of turning into a regional conflict rather than just one within Syria.
What can we do, Senator? Some people say there's not much, including Bob Gates, the former Secretary of Defense, who said there's just not much we can do about this right now. What will you tell the administration they need to do here?
Well, that we need to give them a no-fly zone. The Israelis have shown us we can take out their facilities without from a distance, that we don't have to risk our pilots. We can crater their runways, we can take out their air assets, we can provide them with a safe zone so that the Syrian Opposition Council, which is outside Syria, can come into Syria and coordinate with the military, General Idris, and the militia and military inside of Syria, and we can establish that safe zone, and I'm confident that we can prevail. But air power, a classic example is Qusayr. They have it surrounded. Bashar Assad's forces have it surrounded, and then they pound it from the air with Scud missiles and with helicopter gunships and with fixed-wing aircraft. Air superiority is a key element in any conflict with this terrain and this climate, and it's devastating to them.
So you're talking about U.S. air power, using
No.
U.S. bombers to go in there and bomb these runways and so forth?
No, I would use standoff cruise missiles to crater the runways. I would use the Patriot missiles down close to the border to protect the safe zone. But no, I would not send U.S. manned aircraft over Syria. And by the way, the Israelis just showed that the defensive capabilities of Bashar Assad are not nearly what our military were claiming it to be, and that's unfortunate.
Let me ask you this, Senator. What is our strategic objective in Syria? What should it be? What do we want to see there? Obviously, we'd like to see the shooting stop. But beyond that, what do we expect or want or think should be there?
Well, it is in our strategic interest to see Bashar Assad go. The Iranian General Mattis, who was the head of our Central Command, said that the fall of Bashar Assad would be the greatest blow to Iran in the last 25 years. It would cut off their connection with Hezbollah. The reason why Hezbollah is now all in there, because they know that if Syria goes, they lose their connection with Iran, and that would have very serious consequences for them. And so we want a Syria that can have a very long and difficult path to a democracy and governing themselves without being massacred by Bashar Assad. And that's going to be more and more difficult every day. I admit that. There's jihadists from all over the Middle East pouring in there. That's going to make it extremely difficult. But compare that to the status quo. The status quo, the massacre goes on, and Bashar Assad stays in power, and the spillover in the region turns it into a regional conflict. There's no good options here. But the options were better a year to 2 years ago than they are now, and every day it gets worse, and there's no doubt that this is going to become a regional conflict if it continues like this.
All right. Let me just shift
Sure.
to some of the controversies going on back there in Washington. Number one being Attorney General Eric Holder. He's now being investigated by a House committee. Republicans claim he lied to Congress about having no participation in tracking down these new leaks. Did you think in general that the Attorney General has overplayed his hand here?
I think he's taken action that demand explanation. I'm more than happy to give him that opportunity to explain the obvious contradictions between his statements of not having anything to do with these investigations and the obvious fact that he did. But I also think that the Attorney General has to ask himself the question, is he really able to effectively serve the President of the United States and the American people under the present circumstances? That's a decision he'd have to make.
But in other words, do you think he ought to resign?
Again, I think that would be up to him, but I think it would be tough for him to answer the question whether he can still effectively serve the President of the United States.
Do you think he lied when he made that statement?
You know, I've always avoided, Bob, that word because it's so definitive. But I don't think there's any doubt there are significant contradiction between what we now know were his actions as regards to these media people and what he stated before Congress. He's going to have to resolve that, not only to Congress, but to the American people.
All right. Well, Senator, we want to thank you. We're glad you're home safe, and we'll look forward to talking to you again. Thanks a lot. We'll be back in 1 minute.